According to its latest World of Work report, spending cuts and labour reforms have had devastating consequences for the jobs market, whilst failing to produce any meaningful reductions in deficit. Joining us from Geneva is Raymond Torres, Director at the Institute for International Labour Studies at the International Labour Organization. Raymond, thanks for joining us. A fairly stark forecast of unemployment. Your view here, as we see in Spain, nearly 1 in 4 of the working population don't have a job. Your view is that austerity is entirely the wrong policy, is it?
Obviously, public deficits have to be reduced. In some countries, they reach 10% of GDP. This is not sustainable, obviously. However, there are 2 issues that have to be kept in mind. First of all, aggressive reductions in the public deficit are actually counterproductive. They, of course, affect the economy. They, of course, affect jobs. But in addition, they don't lead to a significant reduction in the public deficit itself. And in addition to that, it's important to add to any strategy to reducing public deficit in a reasonable manner. It's important to add a growth and employment strategy, which is at the moment totally missing.
I mean, there's always a J-curve effect, isn't there, when you implement austerity? Those who argue it's the right thing to do say growth will follow cutting budgets, and with growth you will get employment. It's just there's a lag.
This is the rationale, indeed. But in fact, it's based on the assumption that this austerity will lead to improved confidence in markets, in turn making room for more private investment, leading to growth, etc. This is not happening. In fact, confidence is deteriorating. Even rating agencies are continuing to downgrade the public debt in the countries which undergo austerity. And of course, private investment is being severely hit by the recession, and also by something else, which is very important to mention, which is the lack of credit, especially to small enterprises. Do you know, for example, that in many enterprises, the cash in hand, the cash in the hands of large enterprises is very significant, in fact has increased. And enterprises in this very uncertain environment prefer not to invest. And small enterprises who have less cash don't have access to credit. And as long as this continues, of course, there's no recovery in view.
And Raymond, obviously youth unemployment, a particular problem within the Eurozone and Spain specifically as well. How can some of the countries start to work their way out of that issue, getting the youth population a little bit more engaged in finding jobs?
First of all, it's impossible to see massive declines in youth unemployment unless the economy itself starts to recover and new jobs are created, because youth are disproportionately affected by the stagnation and the recession in the labor market. Secondly, there are good practices here which could be used as a source of inspiration. For example, it is well known that countries that manage to help youth combine study with work experience do better than other countries. Countries like Austria, the Netherlands, if we're talking about Europe, or Germany, do better in terms of youth employment than other countries because of this policy. Also, in some cases, for youth who get disadvantaged, who get demoralized, it's important to start to launch second chance programs, which may require some public spending, but that's what I mentioned before. This is the kind of public spending which will help promote participation, especially among youth, growth, and in the end, confidence.
Raymond, 2 questions. One, are any of the countries doing anything that you view as constructive, or are all their policies a little too harsh and going to make the situation worse? And then the second question is, I'm reading that Germany's facing some strikes as people want wage increases that could be inflationary, and I'm wondering if to some degree some of the unemployed in some of the countries having problems could actually migrate to other countries where there is healthy growth.
Some countries are doing well, actually, and they are adopting the right policies, which is why they do well. For example, in Australia, they have adopted very different policies. Also in Canada, and actually in the US, is one of the few developed economies that has a national job plan. Actually, there's none of this in European countries, for example. And in outside developed economies, Brazil, for example, or South Korea, are actually adopting also inclusive policies with a very important employment element. So in terms of the strategy in Germany, Indeed, the fact that wages increase in Germany can be seen, first of all, as a result of market forces. In fact, there are labor shortages in Germany and therefore wages rise. It has to be seen in that light. But in addition, it will help Germany itself rebalance its economy because it depends so much on exports to countries which are now in recession and more into recession. And also it will help those other European countries as well because the German market will expand and will help recovery in the other European countries. Of course, higher wages in Germany may entice some people in other countries to move to Germany to find new employment. However, it's important that, to note that in Germany, workers need the right skills and also linguistic skills. And it's not always the case in the high unemployment countries that the people can have those skills, especially the linguistic skills.
All right. Thank you so much, Raymond. We are going to have to leave it there. Raymond Torres, Director of the Institute for International Labor Studies at the International Labor Organization.